Good morning, everybody. My name is John Kevern. I'm the Director of Sales for the Andersons, and welcome to our Andersons Virtual Dealer Training event, where we're trying to provide training on a monthly basis. Today, we're going to be talking about humates and fulvic acids and humic acids, and then also some of the Anderson products to consider as you are putting together your nutrition plan. We have Jessica Link and Jeff Gilder, our agronomists, that will walk you through some education on the humates and get you going. And also, just want to put in a quick reminder that we're trying to do these trainings on a regular basis. So if you have topics that you want to get deeper into or to learn more about, we'd love to hear that feedback. And at the end of this presentation, we'll give you the vehicle how to do that. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jessica and Jeff and let them teach you about humates.
Good morning, I am Jessica Link and I'm here with Jeff Gilder, both agronomists for the Andersons. And today we are going to be talking about humates, what they are and how they fit in with your overall program. The beginning of the presentation, we're mainly going to focus on the agronomy aspect. And then at the end of the presentation, we'll switch into our product solutions. For this webinar, Jeff and I are going to turn our cameras off so we don't block any of our content. And with that, we will get into humates and what they are. So first starting out with ancient carbon. So from the southwestern parts of the United States to Western Canada, there are deposits of oxidized coal. These pockets are a source of naturally occurring humus, which are highly compressed from the tropical rainforest. These are mine materials close to soil surface, and humic or materials high in humic are utilized as soil conditioners and a stabilizer for ion exchange. When we look at our soil organic matter, there are different factions that we like to focus on. For this, we're going to focus on the humic acid, and fulvic acid, primarily those bottom two, humic and fulvics. These factions of the soil contain different plant animal tissues at different stages of their breakdown. So at the different stages, like I said, we're going to focus on those last three, humic acids, and fulvic acid. There are three types of humic acid. Three types of this humic substance, starting with humin. This is the insoluble fraction of leonardite. This fraction is very slow to decompose, and that's where we get the improved water holding capacity and improved structure of the soil. When we think of humin, think of those old prairie soils with that deep dark color, and that we can attribute to the humin fraction and the humin component of those soils. Next, we have humic acid. Humic acids are very important to the cation exchange capacity of soil, carbon chelation, and very important in complexing minerals. So these are very important when we start talking about stabilizing nitrogen later in this presentation. And then the last one, we have our fulvic acid. This one is very soluble in both alkali and acidic solutions. So this one is going to be the most effective when it comes to chelating our minerals. And then if we look at the spectrum as we move towards all the fractions, they all have different benefits. So fulvic acid is best for nutrient transport and chelation. Humic and humin are better at water retention and improving our soil conditions. And both humic acid and fulvic acid have the ability to stimulate overall root growth. Here is another view of how we can look at our humic acid fractions, our humic substance. So on the left-hand side, we have our fulvic acid. On the right-hand side, we have humin. So moving from left to right, we have the increase of molecular weight. And how that impacts us is as we move to the right, as our molecular weight increases, our solubility changes to become more insoluble. And also moving to the right, we have better holding capacity and solubility. So fulvic acid is more soluble under all pH ranges, and the more water soluble that is, the faster the plant is going to respond to the application of the acid. So next is, where should I use them and when? So looking at this quote, this is from Dr. Robert E. Petit from Texas A&M. So basically what he has to say is, carbon and humic acids are the most important of a component of a healthy soil. He has done a lot of work on humic substances and their influence on soil fertility. So when you read his work, it does correlate very highly to how we position our carbon sources. So looking at humates and the way they break down again, fulvic acid we like to think of as a chelator, very soluble and have a great ability to transport nutrients, which is why we're going to focus that one on leaf and root tissue. Then next we have humic acid, which is going to be a carrier, which is best placed near our root systems. They don't go as great as a foliar because as fulvic does, and that's because of solubility. And then we have humin, which is going to be part of our soil organic matter. And then here is another chart, again, comparing humic acid versus fulvic acid. So when it comes to placement, we like to keep this chart in mind. Because of the molecular weight and the ability to carry nutrients, it's best for us to position humic acid in a side dress application, coulter cart, or wide drops. It also fits great in a weed and feed program or in 2x2 with traditional high poly starters. Fulvic acid is more fit for our in-furrow applications or foliar applications, and that's because of its compatibility in wide pH ranges and being a general better chelator of our minerals because of, again, that solubility and molecular size. So that's a really great application with fertilizer, fungicides, or herbicides. And a little side note on acidic solutions here, acids are low in the pH around the root zone. So when you look at the availability of micronutrients, they're mostly more available to the plant in an acid environment than an alkaline. So if we when we're positioning our fulvic acids in our starters, like season pass with microcarb or in foliar programs, both microblitz and phosphics contain a carbon source like fulvic acid, or you can utilize it as a tank mix partner on its own, like our fulvic LQ.
Good, thanks, Jessica. So kind of a great rundown there, and in terms of how a fulvic acid is going to operate, in a root zone versus a humic acid, that chelating side versus complexing versus kind of the carrying of nutrients, and we'll kind of touch base on that in a little bit. So on the humate side, what are the benefits of humates? This is kind of part of the agronomy side, and as we get closer to the product placement. So why carbon? We've got 4 bullet points that are up there, but I really kind of want to focus on that last one, and that is as you see an increase in soil organic matter, which is extremely difficult to do. We start to add in about, for every 1% increase in soil organic matter, we're going to add about 10,000 pounds of soil carbon, which is going to help remove about 15 to 20 tons of atmospheric carbon. So we're going to be able to replenish our carbon in the soil. The bigger part of that to me, though, is kind of on the reverse side, and that is we start to deplete our soil organic matter, we're going to lose carbon in the soil, and we lose that ability to capture that carbon from the atmosphere. This is really where kind of manure applications, cover crops, residue management, like using bioreverse, that really comes into play, and the application of humic acids and fulvic acids. Carbon builds the house for healthy soil. We like to use this analogy where our foundation is really being that root system, and how do we improve the movement of nutrients into that root system. The square footage is really kind of the idea of holding capacity, which is our cation exchange capacity, or our CEC. And then you think about the framing, the plumbing, the HVAC systems. These are really parts of that human component, which was kind of on that top of that graph there, which is about 50% of our soil organic, or about 50% of our soil organic matter is going to be there. And oxygen, we always try to think about 25% of that fraction, being the ability to move oxygen through the soil. So, thinking about healthy soils, would be that last one there, and that's being the food supply for our microbes there, and that's really having a healthy soil biome and using carbon as that food source. Carbon, it really equals the food source for our microbes. Microbes need two things as a food source. They need nitrogen and carbon. Our nitrogen can come from a nitrogen application and a starter and a side dress and a broadcast application. It can come from the mineralization of organic matter. It can come from the nitrogen that we get from that mineralization when we start to talk about a bioreverse and our stock degradation or our residue management programs. Carbon can also come from the sugars that are going to get extruded through the root system through photosynthesis. So a lot of ways that that carbon becomes a food source there. And carbon can come from our humic inputs and our fulvic acid inputs also. So when we make a recommendation of adding a biological into a tank mix or into a residue management program, like our biopass and our bioreverse, we like to see it applied with a carbon source, whether that be a simple sugar, a fulvic acid, or a humic acid. So think of sugars as being a carbohydrate, which is really a carbon source. So we're talking about sugar being carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, is really what makes up sugar. We like it as the initial food source to get that colonization process started. But we also like it in that mix because when bacteria start to go through the reproductive cycle and those cells split, they really need a food source to help repair that damaged cell so that it can start that process again in terms of that reproductive cycle of a bacteria. And then humates provide soil carbon. This is really where we start to look at as we move up that molecular weight side. This is where we're talking about the human component here and the ability to move water, improve soil tilth, and that oxygen movement, and carbon's going to help us do that. 2 bullet points on this slide. One is talking about the increase in CEC, and the other one is going to touch base on that carbon chelation side, which is going to help us understand the component of stabilizing nitrogen also. So we really help with that holding capacity or the ability to hold on to nutrients. So 2 ideas here kind of on a take-home side. The first one is going to be placing a fulvic acid into an in-furrow and what the goal of your starter fertilizer is. That goal of a starter fertilizer is really to get that plant through those early growth stages, through those yield determining factors, in terms of rows around on corn and in length of an ear on a corn plant. And then the second one is moving through those end of those vegetative stages into our reproductive stages with a lot larger root system that's going to help us move nutrients and water. So a fulvic acid is going to help on that in-furrow placement in that first part, and a humic acid is going to help with that second part in terms of finishing out that plant, holding on to nutrients and helping move water in through. So the carbon chelation side, which is really the ability to help us make sure that our nutrients are efficient here. The idea of carbon chelation is going to be protecting the cation from tie-ups from other negative particles. We give the example here of zinc. So this zinc could be zinc that was broadcast. It could be part of a starter fertilizer. It could be zinc that is being mineralized and being brought back into the soil solution, and we don't want that positive cation getting tied up with our negative anion. And in this case, what we're showing here is going to be phosphorus. So even though we've got a chelated zinc in that tank, we want to make sure that as that chelation starts to go away, that we have that fulvic acid that's going to grab a hold of that, because the fulvic acid is really one of the strongest chelators that we know. So we want to keep that zinc available longer, so it's available to the plants. And then another way we're kind of helping protect that zinc longer in the soil solution. So we like to talk about a humic acid as helping stabilize nitrogen. The idea here, we tend to think about stabilizing nitrogen more with our urease inhibitor products that are out there, but carbons have the ability to chelate or to complex nutrients also. So in a nitrogen application, we try, our goal here is really to avoid volatilization. And humic acids can sequester or really form a stable compound, so it's no longer available for a reaction. Humic acids can hold on to the metal nickel. Nickel is needed by the urease enzyme to convert urea nitrogen into ammonia. So if we can hold on to that nickel, make it unavailable to the urease enzyme, then we really start to avoid that nitrogen from volatilizing. So it doesn't matter if it's a urea application or a UAN application, that same thing's going to happen there where we hold on to that metal nickel. And then, so how do we build carbon and how do we burn it off? So keep a living root going. This could be with a cover crop rotations. Having a green manure into that mix, adding composts in, manures in. This is residue management with like a bioreverse. And then, these things really help improve our carbon that's out there. And then how do we burn it off, which is really how do we speed up that decomposition of that human fraction? It's going to be with excess tillage. And then really the big one is that last bullet point, and that's excess nitrogen application. So an over application of nitrogen, we really kind of speed up that process because we overfeed the bacteria and the fungi that's going to decompose that human fraction.
So now we are going to transition into some of the products that we offer that fit in this carbon category. We'll start with the lower molecular weight and move our way into the higher. So starting out, we have fulvic LQ. This is our just regular fulvic acid offering and fits very well into a variety of applications. So a little bit about fulvic LQ is it is very compatible as far as tank mix goes. It's a 4% humic acid, and it has all of those benefits that we expressed earlier when we were talking about the benefits of a fulvic acid. So it is very soluble, very great for application to your leaf and plant tissues, and helps really carry those nutrients into the plant. That plant recognizes the carbon and brings those nutrients up into the plant to be utilized, making all of our fertilizer applications just a little bit more efficient. Like I said, it's a 4% fulvic acid, and it's a very pure product, very easy to use, and very tank mix friendly. It is a fairly low application rate, pretty good variety here, 1 pint to 1 gallon. Usually stick to more of the quart application rate, a pint to a quart. Fit for in-furrow, 2x2, or foliar application. So up next, we have our microcarb product. This is going to be a blend of fulvic acid with a few micronutrients, those micronutrients being zinc, manganese, and boron. You can utilize microcarb on its own and mix it in with other fertilizer applications, or we also have it pre-blended into our flagship starter product, which is Season Pass. You can get Season Pass or Season Pass Plus, both with that microcarb added in. What makes microcarb unique are going to be those micronutrients mixed in with this. So we have zinc, manganese, and boron, all in a very safe rate for application. These are very essential for our crop reproduction and getting that crop out of the ground very, very quick and make that early growth the most efficient as possible, getting those roots growing and established. Like I said, it also includes that fulvic acid. So any of those nutrients that we're applying, we're making them a bit more efficient. Microcarb is very tank mix friendly. When it comes straight microcarb, it's going to be this color, like a dark or a tea color. When you mix it in with your starter at about a quart per acre, it's going to dissipate and not really impact the color of your starter application, because I understand that that's a concern with some of these carbon-based products, is changing the overall color of your tank mix blend and impacting your red ball systems on a planter. The great thing about microcarb is because it is just at that core per acre rate. If you mix it with the starter, it doesn't ultimately change the color too much, just darkens it a little bit, but not enough to impact your red balls, and hardly enough that you can even see the color change. Microcarb is PFR proven by Beck's Practical Farm Research. It's been tested for 3 years, and over the course of those 3 years, we had a positive return on investment and a positive yield gain. So you can see here in the second and third column on this chart of all of our PFR proven products, microcarb had a $11.44 average return on investment in corn, and then we added into a starter application. In soybeans, it had a $9.19 average return on investment. That is applied in furrow in both the corn and soybean system. Microcarb is one of our most well-researched products in our portfolio as an add-on applied in starter and foliar applications. Here is a piano graph just showing the overwhelming positive results that we have when applying microcarb. I always like to say that if something performs 100% of the time, you're full of crap. But I do think showing all of the trials shows the integrity of our data, and that, if you are going to apply microcarb, you can have a pretty good expectation of a positive yield increase and positive return on investment. Up next, we have our Sweet and Easy. This is going to be a sugar-based product. It is a blend of 3 different sugars with a nitrogen source for stabilization. Sweet and Easy is very user-friendly. It's a very clear product, very tank mix friendly compared to like a molasses or something, a lot easier to work with. When we talk about Sweet and Easy and these sugars, we like to utilize the analogy of building a fire. Sweet and Easy is going to give that quick energy boost, which is going to be the paper when building a fire. So working backwards in building one, you want to have that paper, which is going to ignite very quickly and then catch fire to the sticks and kindling. The sticks and kindling are going to have moderate to sustainable energy for that fire, and I'm going to equate that to like a starter application. It gives a bit of energy in the beginning of the season, but it's not going to last through the entirety of the season as your main nutrient plant. But ultimately, what's going to sustain the fire in the long term is going to be your NPK and your soil health. So building a healthy soil, having a great nutrient bank in your soil system is going to give the long-lasting energy and the foundation of your season. So, like I said, it's a liquid sugar blend that is going to be a food source to our microbial communities. It is very great to apply in any stage of our crop growth, very compatible, whether it be starter or a foliar application, and it is very clean and easy to use.
Good, thanks, Jessica. I'm going to go back just a couple slides because I like to use this starting a fire analogy to kind of give you a little bit of a variation difference in terms of placing a humic and a fulvic acid. So if you think about the same thing that Jessica talked about Sweet and Easy giving us that nice quick burst and being the paper to start the fire, think of your fulvic acids as being that kindling or those sticks. We're counting on that fulvic acid on the leaf surface or on the in-furrow, to hold on to nutrients, be that organic acid that helps get plants or helps get nutrients inside of a plant, but it's really that short window because of that water solubility. And then think of your humic acids as more of those logs, part of your soil health, going to hold on a little bit longer. They're going to help feed the fungi out there. They're going to help feed bacteria that are in the soil. But you've got to, because of that nutrient carrying ability of a humic acid, we've got a longer window, and because of the insult, as we start to move out, from being very water soluble to insoluble, that's a great way to think of a humic and a fulvic acid in terms of placement. Our Ultramate lineup. This is our liquid humic acids. We have the Ultramate LQ and the Ultramate ZN. They're listed on our carbon solutions, but we did add to our Ultramate lineup. So we've got our flagship product on our Ultramate. This is a potassium sulfate product. So we do have a potassium and a sulfate form there, but this is our really nice 12% humic acid product. One of the unique things that we've been able to do with our Ultramate, traditionally a humic acid is going to be a little bit better in an alkali solution, but the way that we've been able to formulate this product, we have a really nice wide pH range to this. So in terms of blendability, staying in solution, our Ultramate lineup really has a nice fit into a lot of different tank mixes. Our Ultramate ZN, we've had the addition of an ammoniated zinc to that. So in a gallon per acre of an Ultramate ZN, you're going to get 1 quart of a 15% ammoniated zinc. So great placement with that one. In a traditional 2x2 starter, so you get an additional zinc source there. Side dress applications, great spot for that. And then into some weed and feeds is a great position for that one. Ultramate boron, if you look at our Andy lineup, we've got a really nice product lineup where we talk about spoon feeding boron during the course of the season, and this is another great place to utilize an Ultramate boron to help with the humic acid side, but also to spoon feed some boron during the course of the growing season. And then the MNB is our manganese and boron. Great into the vegetable markets, potatoes, sugar beets, a place where we're consistently adding in some manganese. Great one here would be in our high pH soils, where we tend to see manganese get tied up and not be available to a plant. That's also a great spot to do the positioning here on these. If you hop onto our Andy YouTube channel, you'll see a ton of mixing videos. This one was going to be Ultramate and UAN. We've got a 1034 on there. We've got an ATS on there, but a great mixing product. I have in my freezer for the last 4 years. I have a UAN and Ultramate mix, and that thing has stayed in suspension for almost 4 years now, and not seeing anything settle out in it. So a great mixing product. Rate wise, where you want to see an Ultramate at on our labels, we're going to show a 1 to 3 gallon per acre rate. Kind of a good rule of thumb, especially on a side dress. And the next couple sides that we're going to show are going to be on a side dress side. Is I like to see 1 gallon per 20 gallons of UAN, and that kind of helps you with that rate range of that 1 to 3 gallons. So this is some data last year from Nebraska, where we did a straight UAN versus a pre-emerge application with the Ultramate ZN and a side dress application. And you can see here where we were helped eliminate that volatilization, hold on to that onto that nitrogen, so that the plant was able to utilize that. And we really seen a nice increase here. What we've done for 2023 is we've taken a straight UAN, and then we've done a UAN with a traditional urease inhibitor, and then a UAN plus our Ultramate lineup. And initial data that we're seeing back is that we are doing just as good as the urease inhibitor, if not better in some applications. And we're really seeing where we've seen an improved root system where we did the Ultramate zinc. And then in Ohio, we were able to take a look at the same thing. This is some 2020 data, but we're repeating the same trial, similar to what we did in Nebraska with the urease inhibitor versus the Ultramate lineup. In this case, this is a Y drop and a colder cart. We're not saying that Y drop is less than a colder cart because these two numbers could be flipped around, but consistently what we see is when we add the Ultramate into that tank mix on a side dress application, is we're protecting that nitrogen so that the plant can utilize it. Our Micromark DG lineup, and this is going to be our Micromark humic product, is where we see the benefit of the carbon source because of the humic acid. We've talked about our Micromark DG products in the past. These are going to be our dry materials, but our Micromark DG humic, we've got that nice calcium sulfate and mined gypsum. So we've got a soluble calcium there. We've got a sulfate sulfur, and then we've got the addition of that humic acid to help feed the microbes, act as that holding exchange site to hold on to these minerals that are out in the soil. Really nice in terms of the shape and how these things break down. Remember, these are going to be the same process as our pelletized lime, our pelletized gypsum, our black gypsum, our humic DG. We end up with this really nice dispersible granular. When that granular gets into water, it really breaks down fast, gets things into soil solution, and gets the plant utilizing that carbon source, along with the sulfur and the calcium. If we take a look at that top chart there on our micro DG, so the 10 to 20 pound rate, is really where we're going to look at a banded scenario or a strip till. The 20 to 30 is going to be that dry broadcast. The 30 to 40s are going to be our high valued vegetable crops. And then think of that 50 pound rate in terms of soil buildup on some manganese and some zinc. This was the study that the Precision Planting did. This was up against 5 other products. We had a really nice yield response. We had the highest yield response and the highest net return, and we were number 6 last year for Precision Planting's top 10 products. And then our humic DG and our black gypsum also fall into our carbon solutions. The humic DG is a 70% humic acid, which is derived from leonardite, and our black gypsum is a 10% humic acid and a 70% calcium sulfate, which is a calcium sulfate, a mined gypsum, and then our humic coming from the leonardite. Same process that our micro DG goes through, and these products disperse really nice, blend great, hold into, we don't have a high dust content. These things really blend nice and spread really nice and evenly. So what we're really looking at here is kind of getting that full spectrum in terms of our carbons or of our humic substances. These things blend really nice, and we really get a nice plant response from these things, whether it's going to be in a band, a strip till, or in that broadcast environment. So we want to thank everybody for being on. If you've got any questions, please get with your territory managers.